Pastor Jerry, wow. Almost right at 6 minutes. That was good, Jerry. Also, okay, I've heard Pastor Jerry preach a few times, but not very many. But I'm like, golly, this guy brings fire. This is good. There's something about it in his little sweater vest. I'm like, golly, there's something about that sweater vest that is crazy. Jerry, you did good. 6 minutes. I'm going to try to aim for that. If I don't get 6 minutes, it'll be 7. So it'll be like 6, 7, something like that. Guys, that wasn't the bad joke that Jason told me not to say. That one had to do with crop dusting. I can't say it because he told me not to. So you just got to use your imagination, okay? Well, the topic that we are talking about is hope. Hope has come. And hope is interesting because it's kind of an emotion, right? We can feel hopeful, but it's also a cognitive process that we can have that is a driver of our emotions. Now, what's very helpful about hope is it can be used as a catalyst and a sustainer to move us forward towards our goal despite uncertainty or challenges. I want to make the point that hope is neither good nor bad. It's actually neutral. It can be wonderful if it is moving us in the right direction, but it's actually unhelpful if it is leading us in the wrong direction. To give you guys an example, I was at a Youth Pastor Conference a few years back, and there was a speaker who said something that I think shocked most of the people in the crowd. He was talking about dealing with secret sin, and the reality that there are many people that are doing things that they hope that nobody finds out about. And this hope, of course, drives them to lie, to hide, or to try to get away with it. This kind of hope can drive us in the wrong direction. And this youth pastor says something along the lines of, I hope you get caught, which is like two polar opposite ways to hope. And essentially, the point that he was making is that he doesn't want people to continually walk in secret sin that is quietly destroying their lives. And if they can't be honest with themselves and get help, it would be better for somebody to find out in hopes that there could actually be change, health, and accountability. Those are two very different kinds of hope. And I say that story to say that hope can be very helpful and good if it is moving us in the right direction. And that leads me to the question, what is your hope in? Another good way to say it is, who is your hope in? And the follow-up question is, where is your hope leading you? The author of Hebrews in chapter 6 gives us an answer for what we can put our hope in, and it is the certainty of God's promises. And he uses the example of Abraham, the father of our faith, who had a promise from God about becoming a father of many nations, which was impossible for him and his wife due to their age. But it says that Abraham believed God despite the impossibilities, and this belief in the promise gave him the hope that could help him endure until the promise came to pass. Again, it's a catalyst that can help him begin to have the faith, but it's also the thing that can help sustain his faith. And just a little side note, I love reading the Bible in its entire context. If you're familiar with the story of Abraham and Sarah, it actually doesn't go very well. They see a way to obtain this promise on their own, and they take it, and everything just backfires and it blows up in their face in the end. And let me just tell you guys, I'm glad that when I read the Bible, there's people that are relatable, like Abraham, the father of our faith, who I can look at the scriptures and say, hey, He had some mess ups, right? He wasn't just perfect. He didn't have it all together. And that gives me the hope that, hey, if he can mess up a little bit and still figure it out in the end, if God can still use somebody like him to be the father of our faith, man, he can use me, even if there's times that I struggle, even if there are times that I fail. But the main focus of Hebrews 6 is on the certainty of God's promises. And in verse 18, it says this, so God has given us both his promise and his oath. These two things are unchangeable because it is impossible for God to lie. And I love that line, that when God gives us a promise, it's impossible for him to lie. So that means he is going to follow through. Therefore, we who have fled to him for refuge can have great confidence as we hold to the hope that lies before us. And I love this last line. It says this hope is a strong and trustworthy anchor for our souls. So although Abraham didn't get everything right, he had a promise that he could hold on to that gave him hope for something that he couldn't yet see. And this hope could act like an anchor that holds him steady and firm despite uncertainties and challenges, and in his case, his own bad ideas. And if you don't know, the promises of God aren't exclusive for Abraham. There are tons of promises all over the scriptures for you and I. Right now, one of my favorite ones is found in Philippians 1. It says that he who began a good work is going to see through to finish it all the way to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. And the reason why this is important for me is because often I find my hope faltering, where instead of looking to God's finished work on the cross, where that is where my hope is found, a lot of times I end up going to my own performance, where I'm looking at how I'm performing. Am I doing good enough? Am I pleasing God? And listen, I'm just telling you guys, if it is all based on my own performance, if my salvation depends on my own performance, I'm cooked. That's a kid word. It means that I'm done for, okay? But I'm cooked, okay? But what I love is this promise that I can find in Philippians 1 can remind me that, hey, the one who started my salvation, the one who gave me this free gift, he is going to see it through to completion. It's not about my performance, but actually instead, my performance changes when I receive the gift that he has given me. So what Hebrews is teaching us is that we can use these promises as if they are anchors to steady us and hold us in place despite our circumstances. What I love about the promises of God is they don't just lead to blessings, accolades, or things that will bring temporary happiness. Instead, they all lead us to a person, specifically the promiser. Continuing in verse 19, it says this hope is a strong and trustworthy anchor for our souls. But catch this, it leads us through the curtain into God's inner sanctuary. Jesus has already gone in there for us. He has become our eternal high priest in the order of Melchizedek. Now, in the Old Testament, the inner sanctuary is the place where God's tangible, felt presence was. And all this means is that this hope in God's promises leads us into God's presence, which is the ultimate fulfillment of all of his promises to us. I want to say that one more time. This hope in God's promise leads us into God's presence, which is the ultimate fulfillment of all of his promises to us. Today, I don't know what your hope is in or where it is leading you, but I do know that there's a person who has promised us some really good things. The author of Hebrews wants us to know that he is going to stay true to his word. We are being invited not to just put our faith in the promises, but in the promiser himself. Thank you.